Hello everyone, welcome to Learn DAX channel. My name is Siddesh and in this video we are going to study the related and related table functions. So in this use case scenario, I have taken two data sets. One is the Formula 1 data set because I like watching Formula 1 and I thought it would be better if I can explain these terms using something that is related to sports that people would enjoy the video and it won't be just the boring sales data. And yes, I've also taken the sales data set in order to explain a few things which can only be possible using the sales data set. So the agenda for this video is to calculate four things. The first is to create a calculated column in the drivers table to find the total points that each driver has scored in all the races. And second is in the same Formula 1 data set, we want to essentially find the driver name related to each driver ID in the races table. And so first, let's clear off first two points in this agenda, then we can move on to the sales table and the products table. So, okay, I have this drivers table, and if I go here, I have the driver ID, the driver name, and the team for which they are racing. What if I want to find the number of points in aggregation that they have scored in all the races? How do I do that? In order to do that, what I'll do is use a calculated column and I'll write total points scored is equal to. Now let's understand the logic behind the related table function. So I have a small table and I have a big table, and there is a one-to-many relationship going from the small table to the big table, and I want to essentially aggregate the values from the bigger table and push it to the smaller table. In this case, I'm going to use a related table functions. And because we are aggregating multiple values, we are going to use maybe a sum x function. I can show you an example which will make you understand what exactly I mean by aggregating values. So let's say there is a table called students in which there's only one student, it's Siddesh, and there is another table called marks, and again in that only one student, Siddesh, but he has scored some marks in three subjects, which are physics, chemistry, and maths. Now, what the requirement for Siddesh is, he wants to, in this table itself, corresponding to that student ID and student name, what were the total marks that he scored. So, in order to achieve that, what he should do is use this table. He needs to use this table and aggregate these values and put it here. So, for that, he is going to use the sumx function. The same logic we are going to apply in the drivers table. So when I say we want to aggregate values, so I'm going to use sumx. Now, I'm not going to use directly the races table because I cannot do that. What instead I'm going to do is I'm going to use related table races, and then I will give the expression which is the points. So the races points. So now it has given us the total number of points scored by each driver in all the races. So the races in which Lewis Hamilton has participated, in totality, he has scored 43 points. The races in which Max Verstappen has participated, he has scored 43 points. And the maximum number of points have been scored by Charles Leclerc. In this scenario, he has scored 50 points. So this was the first case scenario that we wanted to discuss, which is to calculate total points per driver in the drivers table. Now, in the second case, what we are trying to do here is I have this races table, okay, and in this I have race ID, the Grand Prix, the driver ID, the position, and the points. But I really cannot relate to it in terms of okay, driver ID 1 has secured the first position and has scored 25 points. I want to know the driver name, not the driver ID. So for that, I'm going to use the related function. So I'll just create a new column. I will call it the driver name. Now this is going to be fairly simple. I'm just going to write related and it will be driver name. And then we get the list of drivers corresponding to their driver IDs. So Lewis Hamilton corresponds to driver ID 1. So you have Lewis Hamilton here. Again, Lewis Hamilton here corresponding to driver ID 1. Then you have Charles Leclerc corresponding to driver ID 4 here, and also Charles Leclerc corresponding to driver ID 4. And incidentally, he has scored 25 points in the Spanish race and also 25 points in the British Grand Prix. So he has secured the first position in both those races. So yeah, good going, Charles Leclerc. Now let's head on to the products and the sales table. We have cleared off this part of the agenda. Now what we want to do is we want to find the quantity sold column in the products table. So let's go to the products table. So I have the products table and I have the sales table. And in the sales table, corresponding to the product ID, there is a certain quantity that was sold. Now, because we want to aggregate for each product ID, let's say product ID 1, there were three sales that were made. For product ID 1, there were three sales that were made. And for each sale, there was some quantity sold. Maybe in the first sale, they sold five quantity. In the second sale, they sold, let's say, two quantity. And in the third sale, let's say, they sold 10 units in quantity. Now I want to aggregate that. And in the previous case, we saw that if you want to aggregate, we use the sumx function. So in this case, we'll use the sumx function. So let's do that. So I'll create a new column. I'll call it quantity sold is equal to sumx. Then it will be the table name is going to be sales, related table sales, and the expression is going to be sales quantity. So now we have that the product ID 1 in totality was sold in three units. The three units were sold for the product ID 1. 5 units were sold for product ID 2, and so on and so forth. So that clears the first part of the agenda of the second data set that we have. Now we want to calculate the sales amount. So the sales amount is going to be the product of unit price and the quantity. So let's check out these columns in the sales table first. So we have the sales table. Here we have the quantity and we have the price. So what essentially we are going to do is we are going to take quantity and then we are going to multiply it by price. So how do we implement that? Let's just try something. Let's see how it goes. So I go back to the products table. I create a new column. And what do I call it? I call it sales amount. So sales amount is equal to sumx related table sales. Now there are two columns that I want to multiply. One is the unit price, another is quantity. So I'll take the sales price into sales quantity. So when I do that, I get the sales amount in the products table itself. So this is how I use the related table function. Now we are left with the last part in our agenda, which is to find the product name in the sales table. So just like we found driver's name in the races table, we are going to put the product name in the sales table. So if I go to the sales table and if I see, okay, what is product ID 1? I don't know. What is product ID 4? What it corresponds to? I don't know. So I create a new column. I call it product name is equal to. Now again, please note, we are going from a bigger table to a smaller table. So we are going to use related. So I'll just write related product name. And there you go. We got the product name in this column. And that's how we use related and related table functions. And yeah, it's that simple. In order to understand what related is, what related table is, and how it works. And by the end of the video, if you found anything helpful, if your understanding of the related and related table function improved even slightly, uh, I would appreciate if you share this with your friends. And like I say at the end of every video, happy learning and thank you so much.